The Dallas Cowboys hired Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator on Tuesday. Or maybe that was also late Monday news as well. I think it happened on Tuesday. But the Cowboys hiring Dan Quinn to defensive coordinator position. Obviously, Dan Quinn, former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, he got fired 5 games into the season, replaced by Morris. Dan Quinn, famous for, well, I want to say he's famous for a couple of things. One of them really good and one of them really bad. Obviously, they lost in Super Bowl 51 to the Patriots, the largest comeback in Super Bowl history. That's something that I think he's going to be remembered for, unfortunately for him, for the rest of his life. But the other thing that Dan Quinn was remembered for was his success with the Legion of Boom in Seattle. He was the defensive coordinator from 2013 to 2015 with the Seattle Seahawks. He took over for Gus Bradley when Gus Bradley went to be the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach for a couple of years. Jerry Jones has a really bad habit of hiring somebody that was good 10 years ago. 10 years ago exactly. It is not an accurate number, but it just feels like whoever was relevant in the last decade is who Jerry Jones wants to hire right now. You've seen that with his hiring of Mike McCarthy, and you can kind of see it again with Dan Quinn. Jerry Jones is very absent-minded when it comes to recent NFL history. And, I'm sitting here saying and preparing to say that Dan Quinn is a bad hire, but you could really make the argument that Dan Quinn is a bad hire based on what we already know about the Mike McCarthy hire. Mike McCarthy hired last season after a year off from coaching. He was fired by the Green Bay Packers in the middle of the season. First coach, I believe, that they ever fired in the middle of the season, by the way. I remember reading that somewhere. First coach that they fired in the middle of the season, takes a year off from coaching, apparently changes his ways and changes and becomes more receptive to analytics, but still looks like a dead doorknob coaching on the sideline. For the same reason that Mike McCarthy was a bad hire, is the same reason that Dan Quinn is a bad hire. And that's that Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy both had really great accomplishments because of other people. Mike McCarthy winning a Super Bowl in 2010, the 2010-2011 season with the Green Bay Packers, absolutely carried by Aaron Rodgers and a really, really good Green Bay Packers defense. A Green Bay Packers defense that had 4 Pro Bowlers, Clay Matthews, Charles Woodson, Nick Collins, and Traymon Williams. 4 Pro Bowlers on defense that year for the Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers, who is one of the all-time greats, and he's not even done yet. All-time greats, first ballot Hall of Famer, Aaron Rodgers, delivered Mike McCarthy to that Super Bowl victory against the Steelers in 2010-2011 season. And since then, for Mike McCarthy, it's been a series of wasted years with Aaron Rodgers in his prime. They went 15-1 next season and lost in the wild card round, I believe. Have it in my notes here somewhere. Yeah, 15-1, lost early in the playoffs, and they continue to lose early in the playoffs despite having pretty good seasons. They missed the playoffs straight out one year, but they completely wasted Aaron Rodgers in his prime, which is infuriating to me. I mean, you felt like the Packers were going to win more than one Super Bowl, and I think a lot of people would agree with the argument that they didn't win more Super Bowls because of Mike McCarthy and his inability to coach and adapt to the NFL. Mike McCarthy's greatest accomplishment, I'm gonna stick to that. His greatest accomplishment is because of Aaron Rodgers and a really good defense with 4 Pro Bowlers coached by Mike Nolan. And I'll take everything that I just said about Mike McCarthy and then transfer that over to Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn was a defensive line coach for Seattle early, I believe in 2009, 2010. went to University of Florida, was a defensive line coach at University of Florida before coming back to Seattle to take over the defense that was organized and coached by Gus Bradley, who, as I said earlier, went to go coach the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, that 2013 Seattle defense was one of the greatest defenses of all time and was already set up before Dan Quinn even got there. That 2013 Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks defense was already there before Dan Quinn got there. And hell, he didn't even really, I mean, sure, you can make the argument defensive scheme matters a lot, but when you have the talent on the defense like that, you almost don't even really need to do anything. And that's the same thing that you can apply to Mike McCarthy. When you have talent like Aaron Rodgers, Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, and then the 4 Pro Bowlers on defense, it's like, well, God, I could go and coach that team and make it to a Super Bowl and win it. I mean, talent absolutely matters. Coaching matters, sure, but talent absolutely matters. And when you have a freak combination of talent like that, like Dan Quinn did in Seattle in 2013, like Mike McCarthy did with the Packers in 2011, it's hard. It's very easy to have your achievements look much better than they actually are. And I would point to Adam Gase, who had a fantastic year with Peyton Manning, and that 1 year with Peyton Manning was able to land him not only 1, but 2 head coaching jobs in the NFL, and he's potentially one of the worst coaches in NFL history. And I say this because when you look at Dan Quinn in his product in Atlanta, his supposed fantastic defensive mind, the Atlanta Falcons only had a top 5 defense 1 year that Dan Quinn was head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And that wasn't the year that they made it to the Super Bowl. The offense was a top 5 ranked offense in the NFL the year they made it to the Super Bowl. The offense is the reason why the Falcons made it to the Super Bowl that year, not the defense. Again, I think, if I remember the stats correctly, the Atlanta Falcons only had a top 5 defense 1 year that Dan Quinn was head coach, as opposed to the 3 straight years that the Seattle Seahawks had a top 5 defense because of the players that were there and part of the Legion of Boom. So, wrapping back around on this racetrack, back to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is probably looking at it as like, well, I remember Dan Quinn. His defenses were really good. Last time I was probably looking for a defensive coordinator. I'll hire Dan Quinn, especially because he got fired. Oh, Mike McCarthy was a great coach for Green Bay last time I was looking for a head coach. Let me hire him. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is looking at Dallas and laughing because, hey, these guys their achievements are specifically achieved because they had a miraculous combination of talent that would be hard to find anywhere else. So I'm taking a look at this hire, and I'm saying, well, it could be okay, but is it the best hire? No. It's not. I feel like Cowboys fans are probably just like, oh God, just another meh hire. Like, it feels like Jerry Jones takes no steps in figuring out the best hire for his team. It literally feels like he sits in his office for about 15 minutes and says, who was good about 10 years ago, the last time I was looking for a position coach? Dan Quinn. His defenses in Seattle were some of the best defenses in the history of the NFL. He's right, but he's right for the wrong reasons. So Dan Quinn getting hired in Dallas, I think, is a mistake. I think they absolutely could have found a better person for the job. And for the record, I hope I'm wrong. Like, I never want to wish a failure on anybody. I hope Dan Quinn goes to the Cowboys and nails it. I hope the Dallas Cowboys have a great defense because of Dan Quinn. They've got the players, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch. They've got great players. It has the potential to be really good. And I think if anybody's saying anything positive about this hire, they are going to be looking at the potential and saying, okay, well, look at all these players. Dan Quinn with these good players could be something really good because he has had defenses in the past that were really good. But again, they were in the past, and those Seattle Seahawks defenses were a combination of freak athletes coming together at a time which is very rare in the history of the NFL. So, again, I hope it works out. I don't think it will. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching that segment of the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. If you're interested in watching more of these segments coming out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday as the show does, you should click subscribe to the Hard Headed Sports YouTube channel. And if you are interested in listening to the entire Hard Headed Sports Podcast in full, links in the descriptions to the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts available on all those platforms. Thank you so much for listening, watching, and I will see you very soon.